Believe it or not, different pipe tobaccos require different styles of smoking, packing, all of the above. From the title of this video, you probably understand that we're going to talk about aromatic pipe tobaccos, how to smoke them, how to pack them, all of the above. So, a few things to know about aromatic pipe tobaccos right off the bat. Number one is you're gonna notice they don't really taste like much. They kind of taste like hot air. Some of them do have a pretty decent taste, pretty decent flavor. Most of the time, you're smoking aromatic pipe tobaccos because of the smell and because of what's called a room note. A lot of people will smoke with friends because it smells good and people like the smell of it. And then the second thing you really need to know is that it is by far the most difficult kind of pipe tobacco to smoke. So it gets really hot and it's really hard to keep lit. So in this video, my job is to teach you how to keep it lit and teach you how to keep it from getting too hot. You don't want to get tongue bite, you don't want to obviously burn your mouth, and you want to have a pleasant experience where your tobacco isn't constantly going out and you have to relight and it just gets annoying. So let's jump right in. The first thing we'll talk about is the type of pipe you want to use for smoking aromatic pipe tobaccos. Now, in my opinion, you can use whatever pipe you want, but this is going to be the ideal pipe that you want to use when smoking aromatics. So the first thing I think is very important to note is that you want to get a straight stem. The reason being is because a curved bowl tends to build up moisture. We don't want that. Aromatic pipe tobacco will be hot by default, like I said. And so the more moisture that builds up, the hotter it's going to get, the more tongue bite you're going to get, and the less fun it's going to be. The other thing you want to look for is a bowl that has thinner walls. If you get one that's too thick, you're not going to be able to feel the heat from the bowl, emitting from the bowl. And we kind of need to in order to tell whether or not the pipe is too hot and if the tobacco is burning too hot. Another thing we need to take into consideration is the fact that aromatic pipe tobaccos tend to ghost pipes, meaning that it leaves a lingering flavor or smell, and you don't want that. The way to combat this is, one, you can get multiple pipes. So I have 3 right here, and each one of them I actually use for different aromatics. You can also get a corncob pipe, which is very hard to ghost, and it's also cheap. So it's really easy to get a bunch of them and then try a bunch of different aromatics in them. So really what it comes down to is you don't want to have the flavor of, let's say, a chocolate cherry aromatic when you're trying to smoke a vanilla. You want to use a different pipe depending on what tobacco you're smoking. And the last thing we're going to take into consideration when buying a pipe for aromatics is the stem material. So most pipe stems are going to be made of either vulcanite, which is a vulcanized rubber, or acrylic. Now, acrylic is harder. It's a much harder material, and it kind of hurts your teeth to clench down on. And we're going to be clenching down on our pipe quite a bit when smoking aromatics because we're going to be taking breaks, just chilling. Most of the time when you smoke an aromatic, you're kind of relaxing and just pausing a lot. So vulcanite is going to be a much better material to use on your pipe's stem because we're going to be clenching down on it quite a bit with our teeth, and we don't want it to hurt. Very quick list of things we're going to need. If you haven't watched my beginner's guide on smoking a pipe, go watch that now. It'll give you a list of everything that you actually need, but we're going to use, first of all, a butane lighter. We don't want a torch lighter that's going to destroy the flavor. It's going to be way too hot. And we don't want a Zippo lighter that uses lighter fluid because that's going to leave a lingering taste of lighter fluid. A butane lighter, such as a Bic or any other pipe lighter that you can find, is going to have a soft flame, so it's not going to get too hot, and also it's flavorless and odorless. That's exactly what we want. And then the other thing we want is our little tamper. We got to be able to tamp down the tobacco when the ash builds up. Let's jump into the smoking process. So my 3 favorite blends of pipe tobacco, aromatic pipe tobacco, I'll share with you now just so you guys kind of have a reference of what you might want to buy and what you might want to try. So this is the first one. This is one of my favorites right now, especially. It's called Molto Dolce. It's by Sutlif, and it is a vanilla caramel honey. It's very goopy, and so it can be very difficult to smoke, but I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about making it easier to smoke. Now, the other one that I like is also by Sutlif. Sorry, this is the wrong jar. This one is the right one. Sutlif Vanilla Custard, one of my favorites. Definitely my first enjoyable aromatic pipe tobacco. It is what it is, vanilla custard. There's nothing different about the flavor compared to its name. And the last one is called Devil's Holiday by Dan's Tobacco. It's a chocolate cherry tobacco. I only really smoke this one every once in a while because I'm not a huge fan of chocolate cherry, but if you are, feel free to buy a sample and try it yourself. An honorable mention that I would like to throw in there if you don't have any other options or you're waiting for your tobacco to come in the mail for some reason, Captain Black White. It's okay. It smokes a little bit differently than the others. It is pretty good, but I do find, even though I tend to be pretty good at smoking other aromatics, I tend to have difficulty keeping this one lit. So again, it might be like a last resort. Let's talk about prepping your tobacco. Most people are gonna tell you that with aromatics, you want to lay it out on like a paper towel and let it sit and dry for a while. This tobacco, Molto Dolce, is by far one of the hardest tobaccos to smoke because it's goopy and wet. The majority of people that you ask are gonna say, yeah, leave that out to dry. You don't wanna smoke it right out of the tin. I've never left it out to dry. I've always smoked it right out of the tin. So if you follow the steps that I'm gonna share with you, you should be able to smoke this without letting it out to dry. Now, I guess it might depend on where you live and the climate and the temperature and whatever, humidity. But personally, I live in New York and it's pretty freaking humid. So with the method that I have come up with and altered and learned from other people, you should be able to smoke this pretty easily with some practice. And if you have a lot of experience and you still find that it's hard to smoke your tobacco, feel free to leave it out and let it dry. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't personally find that to be the case with me. All right, let's talk about packing. If you've done any research on pipe smoking, you've probably learned about the 3-pack method, which I've talked about in my beginner's guide. And the 3-pack method is basically you put some tobacco into your pipe, you push it down a little bit, put some more tobacco into your pipe, you push it down a little bit harder, you put some more tobacco in, and you push it down even harder. And it kind of layers it so that it's loose at the bottom and tight at the top. With aromatics, we are doing none of that. One of the main reasons why I think a lot of people hate smoking pipes their first time is because they buy a pack of Captain Black, which is already very difficult to smoke to begin with, in my opinion. And then they pack it like that, and it burns, and it sucks, and it's not a good method for aromatics. That packing method is made for Virginias, Englishes, Burleys, all that kind of stuff. And aromatics just don't work that way. So I've come up with my own little method of packing based off of other people's opinions and my own experience. And now we're gonna talk about how to pack your pipe. So the key to packing your pipe for aromatic pipe tobacco is packing it extremely lightly. So I'm gonna open this Molto Dolce here, and this is just like a $50 briar pipe. You don't need anything crazy special, just remember straight stem and kind of thin bowl walls. Now, you're basically gonna pinch and drop, the pinch and drop method. I just coined that, pinch and drop. So we're gonna take a little pinch of our tobacco, place it into the bowl, just drop it. Don't push it down, just drop it so that it falls into the bowl. Take another pinch, drop it so that it falls into the bowl. And you definitely want to do this like either over a piece of paper, or if you have a tin, over your tin, so that the tobacco that's not making it into the bowl falls into your tin or onto the piece of paper so you don't lose it or it doesn't get gross and fall on the table. But yeah, we're just going to keep doing that over and over. And once it gets to the top and we can't push it down anymore, we're going to push it down very, very, very lightly with our finger. So lightly that you're not actually applying pressure, you're just kind of pushing it down a little bit so you can make space for some more tobacco. And lastly, we're gonna take another pinch, let it fall, and this should be probably our last pinch. Once it falls into the bowl like that, not sure if you can see it, but it's packed up there pretty high to the brim. You then take your thumb and you're just gonna kind of put it on the top and twist it a little bit so that the excess leaves just kind of lock together. That's all you have to do to pack your pipe tobacco into your bowl when it comes to aromatics. Let's talk about lighting. I really like this Bic lighter with the stem, I guess you would call it, or the neck, because you're not actually putting the flame near your fingers and burning yourself, especially considering you're pointing it downwards instead of upwards like you would be for lighting a cigarette or a cigar. So like I've talked about in my beginner's guide, we're gonna do the same exact thing that we would do with any other pipe tobacco. We're gonna char the top. So the way this works is you light, you're gonna kind of swirl the flame around the bowl, the top of the bowl, and you're gonna take small puffs just to char. We're basically toasting the top of the tobacco just so that it gets a little toasty, a little bit, not ashy, but it burns it just slightly. We don't wanna burn it too much. So we're gonna do this maybe 3-4 times, and you'll get a feel for this over time the more you do it, but I'll kind of just demonstrate here. So I lit it, I took a little puff, we're gonna light it again, take a puff. Okay, so this is flaming pretty well, and again, we're toasting the tobacco. We're not lighting it, we're not trying to smoke it right now, we're just toasting it. So we'll get a little bit of char on the top, and we're gonna take our tamp And we're not pushing the tobacco down. We're not trying to shove the tobacco deeper into the bowl. We're basically just going to take it and lightly let gravity do its thing. Push the charred tobacco down a little bit, just so that it kind of meshes with the rest of the tobacco that wasn't charred. And if it goes down deeper than like halfway down the bowl, you're doing something wrong. You probably want to start over. So then the second light is going to be a little bit different than our English tobaccos, our Burleys, our Virginias. It's going to be the same concept, but what we want to be mindful of is how hot it's getting. If we're getting tongue bite right away, we're pulling too hard, we're lighting for too long. So the second light is basically you're going to light your tobacco, take a puff, and then maybe give it a rest. Then we're going to light it again, take a puff, and again, we're swirling the flame around the bowl. And at this point, our tobacco is lit and ready to go. Now, if we're getting crazy, huge clouds of smoke, it's not what we want. More than likely, if you are, you're going to get some tongue bite. Your mouth is not going to feel good. And what we want to see is kind of this smoke coming out of the top of the bowl, right into my face. What we're basically looking for is airflow. The reason we pack it so lightly is because we need air to flow through the entire bowl, allowing the flame to continue on, but not so much that it gets compressed and the hot air gets trapped and it gets super, super hot inside that bowl, thus resulting in tongue bite and burning the casing of the aromatic. All of these aromatics come with casings like sugar and honey and these sweeteners that make them taste and smell really good, but the caveat is they're going to burn hotter. So because I've been talking, it's gone out. But the idea is to take small sips and then rest. Take a small sip and then rest. And most of the time you're not going to eliminate tongue bite from the initial light, and if you do, you might not have lit it properly. So if you get tongue bite right on the initial light, or rather on the second light, it's not a big deal. But what you want to avoid is tongue bite throughout the entire smoke. So we're relit now. And again, small sip, let it rest. You can use your pipe to make a point it at somebody, make your opinion known, clench it between your teeth, take a few more puffs, and just enjoy the flavor, let the smoke, settle around you, and it smells great. This is one of my favorite blends. Now, you want to smoke it quick enough that it doesn't go out, but slow enough that it doesn't burn you. So if you're puffing like a chimney, you're probably going to get tongue bite and it's going to be too much. It's going to be too fast. And as time goes on, that probably looked pretty cool because all the smoke just flew into my face. As time goes on, you're going to get better at this, and you're going to learn the cadence, you're going to learn the timing, you're going to learn how to get rid of tongue bite, all of the things that make smoking aromatic pipes, pipe tobacco, enjoyable. Now, you will have to relight. There is no question you will have to relight. The trick is to learn how to relight as little as possible. So for me, if I actually take the time to tend to my pipe and I don't sit here talking for 5 minutes at a time, I usually have to relight maybe 2 to 3 times per smoke. And I just want to mention, I've been smoking this for maybe 2-3 minutes at this point. I've only had to relight it once just because I was talking for too long. And the other thing that's important to note is I haven't gotten any tongue bite whatsoever. The smoke has been very, very cool. Now, you're going to get tongue bite a lot when you first start smoking these. It's going to take a lot of practice, and you're going to have to learn technique and get experience. Now, the reason you'll have to relight is because of what I believe just happened here, which is because we pack so loosely, the ash tends not to sit so tightly with the other tobacco that's below it. And so we have to tamp it down a little bit. And again, this is just gravity tamping, very lightly. Just tamp it down a little bit so that it touches the fresh tobacco. Then we can relight. Now I want to talk about the breathe method, okay? The breath method, the breathe method, whatever it's called, breathing method. Again, this is all about patience. So you're not taking a drag every 2 to 3 seconds. You're letting it sit, you're letting it chill. But when you have the pipe clenched between your teeth like this, you also need to be mindful that it could go out. And you don't want it to go out. You want to relight as few times as possible. So what the breathe method is basically you wrap the stem around your lips so that no other air can get out. And you lightly, very, very gently breathe into the pipe. Not so much so that the tobacco flies out, but so that you see a little tiny bit of smoke coming out. And what this does is it just keeps the ember going a little bit because you're getting oxygen through there. You're not taking a large drag to the point where it's getting too hot and you're over smoking, but you are keeping the ember alive and preventing relights. So an example of a typical smoke session for me would be something like this. 3 puffs, let it chill in my mouth for a little bit. Breathe method. Now that was too much breath because I had to speak, but you get the idea. Breathe method, let it chill in my mouth for a little bit. 2 more drags. Let it chill. Breathe method. The one thing you should notice while you're smoking it, and I'm noticing it now, the outside of the bowl is cool to the touch. It's not even warm, it's cool. And we do want the bowl to warm up a little bit, and I think the reason it's cool and not warm is because we've been chatting. But you really don't want the bowl to get too hot. You want it to stay nice and cool or warm. And that's what I've been doing smoking this. And that's a good example right there. I just gave you 3, 4, maybe 5 sentences without taking a puff, without using the breathe method, without doing anything. And it's still lit because I have a good cadence and I understand, oh, it's about to go out, maybe take a few puffs. If you need to puff a little bit harder because it's about to go out, that's fine. Just, again, you'll get used to it and you'll get the hang of it. Now, if your bowl is too hot and you're getting to the middle of the bowl too quickly, you're smoking too fast, you're puffing too hard, it's too aggressive. Again, this is why we choose a bowl with thin walls, so we can feel that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we wrap this up is the middle to the end of the bowl. Once you get to the middle to the end, your ash is going to start building up, okay? A lot of ash is going to start building up at the top. And what a lot of people will tell you to do is just to tamp it down and keep smoking. But what I find is that your pipe starts tasting like ash. It tastes like ash. It tastes like fucking ash. But yeah, it starts tasting like a campfire. Instead of caramel, vanilla, creamy goodness, it tastes like a campfire. And there's nothing wrong with ashing a pipe. So I'm just gonna take it, twist it over a little bit, right? Tap, tap, tap. Some ash comes out, right? Now there's less ash in there, more fresh tobacco, and then I tamp it down. Then I push it down and condense it a little bit just to keep it all packed together. And then we relight. So what did we learn? Well, you watched the video. You tell me what you fucking learned. Or just rewind. I'm not going to go through it all again, but basically that's the gist of it. You want to be patient with your aromatic pipe tobacco. You want to pack it properly, nice and loosely, so that it doesn't burn too hot. You need to find a cadence. You need to get used to being patient with your tobacco. And also, the last thing I kind of want to mention is it's going to sometimes depend on the tobacco that you're smoking. Again, Captain Black, man. I tried to smoke this the other night, and I was like, why is it not staying lit? I think it needs to be packed a little bit tighter than what I'm used to. So you'll have to trial and error some of this stuff, but I hope this helped you get an idea of what is the best and most practical method of smoking aromatic pipe tobaccos. And it gives you a good baseline to start with. And once you learn and get some experience, you'll have some fun. But that's it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like. If you didn't, tell me about it in the comments and explain why I'm a piece of shit. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this, maybe a year from now, because I barely make any videos. But I'll see you guys in the next one. See you later.